So Annihilation has finally been released in the UK via Netflix. Unfortunately, no cinema release. Yeah, it's a film I've been looking forward to for quite a while. I'm a big fan of Alex Garland, you know, just as a writer, he's written some pretty impressive stuff. And as a director, his first film, Ex Machina, ranks in, it ranks amongst my favourite science fiction films. And it's one of the first films I reviewed on my channel, not the first, but one of. And yeah, it was an impressive debut as a director. Like I say, he already had a body of work as a writer, but as a director, very impressive indeed. So I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to bring to us next. Now, I've heard a lot of stuff about this. I've tried to keep away from reviews. I've tried to keep away from any spoilers and stuff before going into this, and I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. I watched it today when it went up on Netflix, and I've got to say, highly impressed. Really love this film. I'm a huge science fiction fan, and this is the kind of film that just really, ticks all the boxes for me. It does what all great science fiction films should do, which is ask big questions. And what it does, in the vein of most really great science fiction films, is it doesn't provide you with the answers. And I think that the main kind of questions this raises is this idea that, at a genetic level, depending on how you view perfection, human beings are not perfect. We have diseases, we have a genetic breakdown of our bodies, and this film kind of acknowledges that and asks the question, if God exists, why does that happen? Why do we break down? And I think this notion of free will comes into play because of that. This idea that, well, are we predisposed, so to speak, to be self-destructive? Humanity is kind of heading for annihilation. This film kind of puts forward the case that we are self-destructive at a very genetic level, that it's in our genes. It's kind of predetermined. We've got no choice in the matter, or do we? And I think that's what the film is about. They're the questions it raises. Are we heading for destruction and there's no way out, or do we have a choice? Do we have a part to play in it? Can we go against that programming in our genetics and say, actually, no, I have a choice? Now, the story itself is quite simplistic in its setup. Essentially a meteorite or something from space hits the Earth, and then something starts to spread out of it, something they call the shimmer, and everything that exists within the shimmer, this thing that keeps growing and growing, but everything that exists within it just gets a little bit weird. So this character played by Natalie Portman, she, for various reasons, ends up requesting to go in there as part of this military team that's tasked with trying to find out what's going on, really. What is this thing all about? She has her own reasons for being there, and getting into the shimmer, it kind of brings to light these questions. The way this environment operates, it essentially holds a mirror up to us, both on a genetic level and on a behavioural level. We see kind of life imitating life, but is it a facsimile? Is that all it is? Is it a facsimile, or is there something more to it? That's really all I can say without spoiling things. It's a very, very hard film to talk about in that regard if you don't want to spoil anything. But I think a very good film, must be said. I think Natalie Portman is very good in the film. She gives one of the best performances of her career. I don't think I'm being biased there just because of my love for the genre. I think she does give a genuinely good performance, and I think this film probably will be compared to Arrival in many regards, because it does have some similarities. You've got this central female character who has got something in her past that she's dealing with, and she goes into an environment, an alien environment, which then kind of holds up, in this respect, a mirror to herself, I guess, so that she's then able to kind of deal with that past, to deal with the things that she's done, that she's faced, this, that and the other. I think in many respects it does sit quite nicely alongside Arrival. Some of the stuff that we get to see once we are in that alien environment is also pretty trippy, pretty freaky, sometimes horrifying. There's a couple of monsters, a couple of beasties that, yeah, provide some genuine shocks in the film. This definitely has elements of horror. It's what I would call a sci-fi horror, you know, the emphasis being on sci-fi, but definitely quite a bit of horror in there as well. I don't think the writing here from Garland is quite as strong as Ex Machina, but like I say, you know, you're talking millimeters. It's just, it doesn't diminish what he's achieved with this film. But if I'd say, you know, if I was to point out where the weaknesses lie, I'd say it's in a couple of the characters. I either feel underdeveloped or they're a little bit kind of cliche in many respects. For example, there's the character of Anya Thorenson, played by Gina Rodriguez, who for me at times is just a bit too full on. I think Garland could have toned her down a bit, or not made her so obvious in the, you know, the butch kind of loudmouth, you know, go off the rails crazy girl, you know, and her descent into madness, so to speak, happens just a little bit too quickly. It doesn't feel very organic, I guess, is the word I would use. But again, you know, given the environment that they're in, that you could use that as an explanation. You know, it doesn't have to feel organic. It doesn't have to be this process that you can kind of quantify, so to speak, because the environment they're in is, you don't know how that's going to affect them and how it's going to change them, whether quickly or gradually over time. I do think the cinematography in this is good. I like it, but I don't know if it was just because of watching it on Netflix. I don't know how it plays on the cinema, whether it differs in any way, but I feel like there's kind of like a grey vibe to it. You know, the blacks aren't quite black. You know, when you look at something by the likes of Roger Deakins, who really deals in blacks and shadows and just that definition of colour, it doesn't really feel like you have that with this. It feels very hazy, the colour palette on it. Not the kind of thing I like. It's not quite Marvel haze, you know, it's not that kind of what Marvel do with their movies, but yeah, there was just something about it that wasn't quite the way I liked. You know, not like Arrival. Like I say, I think the cinematography in Arrival was definitely better, much better. But even so, the film still looks nice, still looks good. Now, these are just my initial thoughts. You know, I only saw the film today. I've not had a long time to process it, and I think it is one of those films that, over time, the more you watch it, you're going to start pulling stuff out. You know, it's not a film in any way that I can claim to fully understand. There's definitely things in here that I think will require second, even third or fourth viewings. But you know, just as an initial viewing, I've got to say, I was gripped from start to finish. Like I say, I think it raised many questions. I don't think it answered them, but in a good way. You know, it didn't leave you hanging in the sense that, oh, is that it? You're not going to give me the answer to that. It was more of, you know what, I get to the end of it and I'm challenged. I'm thinking about things, and that for me is a good thing when it comes to movies. So yeah, I think it's very, very good indeed. Top tier sci-fi. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. What about you? Have you seen Annihilation, and what did you think about it? What are your thoughts, and how do you think it ranks alongside the likes of Arrival, or even films like Interstellar in 2001? You know, a lot of people are talking this film up pretty big. How do you think it stacks up? Comment below and let me know, and until next time, crack it.